Every day, people walk into the healthcare scared, uninsured, and overwhelmed by information they were never taught to understand. They're asked to make life-changing decisions without the clarity they deserve. And sometimes the care they receive is shaped by things no one talks about, things even providers may not realize are there. We're here to educate so every person can understand their health, their choices, and their power. Because when everyone understands more, everyone can do better. This is the Equity RN podcast, where knowledge becomes protection.
Hello, and welcome back to Equity RN. I am Alana, the president of Equity RN. And for those of you who joined us last episode, you know that we were missing one member of our Equity RN team, and she is here with me today. So I'd like to take a moment to introduce our vice president, Thandi.
Thank you so much for that gracious introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Thandi Garnett. I've been a registered nurse for a little over 18 years, specializing in cardiac services and now advocating for our veterans.
Okay, thank you, Thandi. Can you also share with the people why you said yes to Equity RN?
Absolutely. I said yes to Equity RN because what it means to me is advocating for those who are overlooked in today's society, whether it's due to race, gender, financial status, just being able to advocate for those individuals and help them navigate their way through the healthcare system that can sometimes be unfair and unjust.
That is so right. All right. So today's episode, we're stepping into a conversation that sits at the intersection of identity, trauma, and access. Because mental health isn't just personal, it's political, it's cultural, and it's shaped by the systems we move through every day. We cannot let Mental Health Awareness Month pass without acknowledging the importance of mental health equity.
And for many communities, Black and Brown families, LGBTQ+, veterans, and people navigating language barriers, those systems have never been fair. They've been heavy, they've been complicated, and they've been shaped by histories of mistrust that still echo in the exam room today.
So today we're naming the stigma, the bias, and the quiet ways people's pain gets misunderstood. We're talking about what happens when someone has to translate their trauma, hide their identity, or shrink their truth just to be heard.
Because healing starts with honesty, and honesty starts with telling your whole story, not just the comfortable parts.
Let's get into it. When we talk about stigma and biases in mental health, we have to acknowledge that some communities carries layered barriers, such as Black and Brown communities, LGBT+ communities, veterans, and people facing language barriers. They all experience systems that weren't built for them.
Right, absolutely. And for the Black and Brown communities, the stigma is often tied to generational traumas, a medical mistrust, and pressure to be strong. Many people grow up hearing that therapy is for the weak or that you can just pray it away. That message follows them into adulthood and into the exam room. That is so true. Absolutely. Because even from childhood, we're taught, don't hold the baby too much. You're going to spoil them, or your kids fall and you say, get up and shake it off. They're not allowed to show their emotions. So we've definitely been taught that throughout our lifetime.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. Or even the stigma of men don't cry.
Exactly.
You don't need counseling. You just need prayer.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, I do want to add the layer of clinical bias, the assumption about pain tolerance, the stereotypes about anger, the dismissal of symptoms. It's exhausting. It's why so many Black and brown patients don't feel safe opening up about their mental health.
And that same pattern shows up for LGBTQ plus and veterans. They're navigating traumas, identity based on discrimination, and military history that hasn't always protected them. Some are still hesitant to seek care because of past policies of fear and being judged.
Yeah, that is so true. I believe our veterans, the ones that were in the services, like let's say 90s, before it wasn't okay to be out and proud.
And there are people facing language barriers, immigrants, refugees, or multilingual families. If you can't fully express your symptoms or your emotional state, you're at risk for misdiagnosis. And it's not just about translation. It's about cultural meaning. Some languages don't have direct words for depression or anxiety.
But that is a great point about some languages not having the right translation or the correct or equating a translation to anxiety and depression. It is definitely our responsibility as healthcare professionals to make sure that we are culturally competent as well as sensitive to be able to identify when that exists and be able to educate and go beyond the scope of just accepting what doesn't exist. So when someone says, my heart is heavy or my spirit is tired, a provider without cultural competence might miss the mental health message entirely. That's how bias shows up. Not always loudly, but in quiet moments where someone's pain is misunderstood.
And that's why representation matters, why training matters, why listening matters, why safe spaces are created for Black and brown communities, LGBTQ plus, veterans, and multilingual families don't have to translate their identity, their trauma, or their truth. When safe spaces are created, that's when healing can actually begin.
Yes. Safe spaces, very powerful thing. You can't heal if you don't feel safe.
The Equity RN would like to take this time to recognize the sponsor, the podcast, Mistakes Make a Man, which is dedicated to the growth, resilience of turning every setback into strength.
Before you judge a man's life, understand the mind that lived it. We all wear scars you can't see. We all fight battles we don't post. This podcast isn't about perfection. It's about growth, lessons, pain, and power. Welcome to Mistakes Make a Man.
And that's the heart of the Equity RN, making sure communities are educated so they can be seen, heard, and supported. Because mental health access shouldn't depend on your identity, language, or your past.
There are access barriers even when people want help. Access is a whole other battle. Cost, transportation, long wait lists, lack of culturally competent providers. All of that creates a wall and a stigma that makes the wall even higher.
Yes.
In addition to that, I feel that profession, psychiatry and psychologists, it's only 3 to 4% of African Americans. So that makes it even harder to find that culturally competent, relevant care that they so desperately need.
I definitely agree with that. I personally love when I have a provider who I feel looks like me. Mm-hmm. It helps me to feel more comfortable, to open up. Mm-hmm. I will say I have had a provider that did not look like me. And we did great work together. This is my therapist. We did great work together. However, we did come to a point where, and I commend her for this because she brought it to me and said, I feel like, or do you feel like, she didn't say I feel like, she said, do you feel like you may be better served by a woman of color?
Wow. Mm-hmm.
For a therapist? And I had to sit with it for a little bit, but she was right. Yeah. She was right. And I appreciate her for being aware enough to offer that option for me and to let me think and realize, like, yeah, I think we've moved into a space where you aren't able to relate to me in the way that I need right now.
That's wonderful. I always say that therapy is almost like dating, right? You might have to go through a few until you find that right one, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Or a pair of good shoes.
Pair of good shoes.
Yeah.
And sometimes you gotta wear, it might be a good pair, but you gotta wear it a little bit to break it in.
Absolutely. And if it hurts too much, it's not the one for you.
I like that. And people start believing they're supposed to struggle alone. When people don't see themselves in the mental health workforce, trust becomes a barrier too. Representation isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. People open up when they feel seen and safe.
So what solutions have you seen work?
Community-led conversations, like peer support groups. I think those are very important because we have to talk about it. We have to name it. And when you're around people who are similar, who are going through something similar to what you're going through, it does help provide that extra layer of comfort. Also, faith leaders partnering with mental health professionals. I think that is a big one, especially in our Black and Brown communities where faith is the root of the culture. Having a faith leader also say that taking care of your mental health beyond just prayer is phenomenal. As well as schools normalizing emotional check-ins. I think every school should have some sort of, school counselors. When I was in school, they were called school counselors. I think every school needs to have a school counselor or a school therapist, like in-house, that helps recognize when students aren't doing well. They can maybe check in and talk with them. As well as organizations holding themselves accountable, not just offering services, but examining their own biases.
Now, this is one of my favorite topics, self-care. Self-care is essential because tending to your emotional well-being directly protects your physical health. When stress, exhaustion, or untreated mental health challenges build up, the body responds with higher cortisol levels, inflammation, poor sleep, weakened immune system. Over time, this increases the risk of heart disease, chronic pain, digestive issues, and other preventable conditions. Prioritizing self-care, rest, boundaries, exercise, movement, connection, and moments of calm helps regulate your mind. And my favorite thing to do is to go get a massage. Just take the time, or just to meditate a little bit. Just take the time, take some nice deep breaths. And just reflect on things, quietly in a peaceful space.
Yes, I agree. My self-care, I believe, is taking care of like my primping needs, like going to get my nails done, get my pedicure.
Absolutely.
But on a day-to-day self-care, it's definitely taking that time to myself in the quiet. Sometimes you really just have to decompress, especially when you spend long days at work. So I definitely love the topic of self-care as well.
Absolutely. Part of that for me is even just getting off of social media, just disconnecting altogether.
Mm-hmm. Supporting your mental health isn't optional. It's a protective act that strengthens your whole system and keeps you well enough to show up for your life and your community. If you've heard yourself in this conversation, if you felt unseen, challenged, or unaffirmed, know this. Your experience is real, and your healing matters. You deserve care that honors your identity, your culture, your language, and your truth.
And if you're a provider or advanced practitioner listening, this is your invitation. Take a pause and reflect. Ask yourself, who feels safe in your care and who doesn't? Equity isn't a concept, it's a practice. It's a commitment. It's a daily choice for Black and Brown communities, for LGBTQ+, veterans, and families navigating language barriers. And for anyone who's ever felt unseen, we see you.
We will continue to advocate. Remember, equity is a verb. This is Alana, President, and
Thandi, Vice President.
Thank you for watching and listening to the Equity RN podcast, where we endorse, educate, and elevate. We'll see you next episode.
You've been listening to the Equity RN. If this stirs something in you, good. Sit with it, then do something with it. Equity isn't a moment, it's a practice.